I am incredibly excited to talk about one of my favorite niche fragrance brands, House of Beau. They have 10 fragrances in their whole collection. I'm going to go through each one of them with you, but first, I will start by taking you through a little bit of information behind the brand. House of Beau was founded just a few years ago, I think around 2022, and they've had sort of a meteoric rise, which I think speaks to the quality of the fragrances and the luxurious experience that they give their customers. The founder, Bernardo Möller, founded the brand as a tribute to his late father, who unfortunately passed away during the COVID pandemic. And he co-founded it with his husband, Giancarlo Perez. Bernardo had a Mexican upbringing and Giancarlo is also Puerto Rican, so there's definitely like a Latin cultural element to a lot of these fragrances. And they partnered with some of the best perfumers in the world, including some notable Latino perfumers, so that just adds to the cultura that you can find in these fragrances. When I'm talking about the quality of these fragrances, I'm not just talking about the juice itself, although notably House of Beau does use extremely high quality, sustainably and ethically sourced ingredients. I'm also talking about the craftsmanship of the bottles. These glass bottles are hand polished, and these are all stone, real stone caps that are hand carved and polished by Mexican artisans. This is a luxury brand, but everything you get from the juice to the craftsmanship to the packaging and the customer experience is a luxury experience. So this is the largest bottle size that House of Beau offers. This is a 75 milliliter bottle, and it does come with this nice gold plate on it. I love that they did not cheap out and lessen the luxury experience for the smaller bottle sizes either. So the next size down they offer is a 40 milliliter bottle, which this is. I love that it comes with this gold base, as well as still you get that natural stone cap. And if you want to order a travel discovery set, they also offer these little potion bottles, which I think are so cute. These are new. These are brand new in the fully gold bottle experience. They used to offer these in like a glass bottle with a gold plate. This is still glass, but it's now a gold colored glass. So all in all, you get this gorgeous luxury experience with all of these stone caps and beautiful bottles. What I love about these stone caps is not only are they beautiful, but they're also useful. This is the rose quartz cap that comes with Rosario. You can use all of these caps to meditate just as you would use any sort of natural crystal or stone. You can also, when you're done with the bottle, turn them upside down and use them as an incense holder as well. So a nice little stick of incense shooting out of the cap would be such a beautiful table piece. Okay, now that I'm done waxing poetic about the packaging, let's get to the actual juice, which is just as high quality, if not better, than the packaging. The way House of Beau approaches fragrance, they are so incredibly well blended. The caliber of the ingredients is so high that I have typically found I've enjoyed fragrances in scent profiles that I typically do not prefer. Even notes that I do not like at all, I love how House of Beau has composed them and put them together and presented them. So if you hear an ingredient where you're like, absolutely not, I do not like that note, I would still give it a chance because it might change your mind. That's what I experienced in this first fragrance, Rosario by House of Beau. This is my favorite rose fragrance in my entire collection. And that's saying something because I have a lot now. But I did not start off a rose enthusiast. I was a rose skeptic. And this is a very classic, dewy, bright rose. So it definitely took me by surprise. I actually put off trying it for a long time because I saw rose, I saw incense in the notes, and I was like, that one's not for me. But the way this is put together, so beautifully balanced. The opening is very bright and sunshiny because it has a lemon and a pomegranate at the opening, which are so juicy and fresh and bright. Very quickly, you get a very classic rose. It's not heavy, it's not old-fashioned, it is a very youthful, elegant rose. And then in the background and in the base, you get this mysterious incense. I would not say it is smoky at all, but it definitely gives like a very grounding and sort of mysterious element to this rose. it just makes me come back for more. This fragrance is so classic and elegant, yet fresh and bright. I actually think this would make a great bridal fragrance too. I actually have a friend who wore this as her bridal fragrance because I gave it to her to try, and she smelled absolutely gorgeous all day long. The performance on this is good. Initially, I didn't think it was great because it does feel a little like fresher and brighter, but it definitely is misleading. This has lasting power. So if you are looking for a spectacular rose fragrance that is simultaneously fresh, bright, and dewy, and also classically elegant, Rosario's that chick. Now let's go from classically feminine to majestically masculine. This is Infinitoud. The perfumer behind this fragrance is Carlos Benaim. And this is another example of being shocked by how much I enjoyed the scent despite the notes. So let me tell you, I do not like, typically, any single one of the notes on the notes description for this fragrance. Not a single one of those is on my preferred notes list. However, the way they come together in Infinitoud is so magical. It is deep and resinous. It's a little bit smoky. It's a little bit spiced. It is serious and contemplative. It's very formal as well. I will say this one is strictly masculine. I don't think there's anything unisex about this fragrance at all. Despite that, despite not liking any of the notes on this description, typically, I love to wear Infinitoud. It is so beautifully done in such an unexpected way. The oud is not barnyard. It goes very deep and resinous. The pepper is not too harsh. The incense is not too smoky. It is gorgeously balanced, and this is a beautiful fragrance for the fall and winter, or for like strictly formal events as well. If we're talking about Rosario being a bridal scent, this is what her groom is wearing. This is the ultimate groom scent to me for a wedding. Another really interesting thing about Infinitoud is, shockingly, surprisingly, this is a really good layering fragrance. The way that I personally like to wear it, because it skews masculine, is by layering a vanilla fragrance with it, specifically like a very warm, sort of like winter fall vanilla. I love to use Vanilla 28 by Kayali layered with Infinitoud. That's how I like to wear it. It definitely makes it sweeter, softer, more feminine, but still retaining that mysterious, resinous type of feeling. Infinitoud also layers beautifully with other House of Beau fragrances, specifically with Rosario. This becomes kind of like a haunted gothic rose type of fragrance. Great for nighttime, great for fall and winter. It takes away some of the like sparkling bright quality, youthful quality of the rose, makes it more of a gothic rose. Really interesting. And we'll also talk about Casa Blanca later, but with Casa Blanca, this gives you kind of like a serene type of feeling. And with the combination of Infinitoud, it gives you like kind of a spooky, haunted quality as well. So you get the mineralic sense to this, you get kind of a suede tobacco type of sense to this, and with the combination from Infinitoud, it's just kind of like serene and austere, but sort of like haunting and contemplative as well. Next, let's talk about La Mar. This is a gorgeous, beachy, sensual white floral. I have it in the little 10 milliliter potion bottle size. The white florals in here are jasmine, tuberose, and gardenia. I do think that the tuberose and gardenia are more dominant in this composition. There is also a distinctly beachy quality to this. I wouldn't say it is particularly marine. It's definitely more beachy, sea breeze, fresh. There are more specifically marine fragrances in the House of Beau line. I don't think this one is particularly marine, but you definitely get a fresh, beachy quality with the saltwater note, with the coconut notes, with the ambergris. There is also a creaminess to this fragrance, which typically goes along with white florals, but it's amplified with a coconut and almond milk note in here. And there's definitely a fresh and sort of sultry spiced quality to this because there are notes of pink pepper and ginger. I sometimes get a sunscreeny aspect to white florals, especially when they're combined with a salty note and a coconut note. And so I am getting just the tiniest hint of the most luxurious sunscreen effect from this, which I love, that creamy white floral salty aspect. I think some of the imagery behind this was supposed to be a woman in a white sundress lounging on the beach or by the sea, and that's definitely what I get. It is luxurious, it is carefree, and it is also very sophisticated. Now let's talk about another white floral in the House of Beau collection. This is Ave Maria, and it comes with this beautiful opalite cap. This is a lot more robust of a white floral than La Mar is. La Mar is a little bit more ethereal, beachy, carefree. Ave Maria is a little bit more dressed up. It's more robust because it does have an oak wood, leather, and Merlot wine base. Now, I do get the oak wood for sure. I don't quite get the leather. I think it might be giving the white florals just a slight powdery nuance at the opening, but other than that, I don't pick up much leather. I do get a little bit of the red wine. It's not very obvious at all, but it is slightly there, especially when I overspray the heck out of this, as I'm known to do. I pick up the red wine more, but if you spray normally or lightly, you're not likely to get a whole lot of the red wine. What I think it's adding is just a slight bit of a bitter tannic quality to this fragrance, which honestly, I think complements the white florals so beautifully. So the florals in here are gardenia, neroli, and jasmine. I definitely think the gardenia is the most dominant floral here. This to me is a gardenia fragrance. There's a slight sourness from the neroli, which I enjoy, and I don't really get much of the jasmine at all. And now to round this out, there is a sweet quality to this fragrance coming from the pear. There's definitely a sweetness there, as well as a cozy sort of enveloping, silky quality from the cashmere note in here. I mean, overall, this is giving me like a floral, fruity wine type of sensation. And I love this too for a bridal scent. To be honest, a lot of the House of Beau fragrances are totally special occasion worthy, bridal worthy, just because they are so special, unique, magical, ethereal. And this is one of those magical statement making fragrances. But you do have to like white florals to enjoy this one. Now I'm so excited to talk about this one, and I mentioned you might be able to tell my preference for these fragrances based on the bottle sizes that I own. So you can imagine this is my favorite from the line. This is Casa Blanca. So this has a beautiful kind of white marble, I don't remember what the exact stone is, but it's like a white marble cap. And this is completely unisex. Like, I think this is squarely unisex. The perfumer behind Casa Blanca is Frank Vogel. So if you're familiar with him, he likes sort of austere, very unisex and mineralic fragrances. He is also the nose behind like Teint Noir by Le Labo, which honestly a lot of people have compared this to. I think they are very similar. This has a white tea note in here, as well as a fig. It has some mineralic qualities as well. And in the base, it has suede, white oud, and tobacco, which definitely give it a robust feeling. And all of those notes are enveloped in this beautiful bourbon vanilla that just warms up on your skin as it dries down. This is not only my favorite in the whole House of Beau line, but this is my favorite fragrance of all time, period. This is the closest thing to what I would consider my signature scent, despite having an obnoxious amount of fragrances. But this one is incredibly special, and it's a little bit hard to describe, but I will try. So There is a beautiful kind of serenity that comes from this fragrance because I think of the copal resin in here. The copal is so gorgeous. It's a very light and ambery resin. It also kind of like evokes like a spiritual grounding to me. I know I mentioned a lot of heavy notes in the notes list for this: white oud, suede, tobacco. However, all of those notes are so lightly done in this fragrance. It specifically says white oud, white suede, and this does give you the kind of feeling of being in some sort of very serene location in the Mediterranean. You've got white linen on, white sails, white limestone washed buildings. It's very clean, yet very assertive. I think a fig note always gives me like Mediterranean vibes too, so that's what I'm getting from this. But it is just so beautiful, and I think so unique. Despite it being compared to Teint Noir, I think this is much more well-rounded. It's a lot warmer, and it's so much more interesting because of the copal resin and the other House of Beau nuances. I cannot tell you how many compliments I have gotten on Casa Blanca. Every single time I wear it out of the house, someone is like, oh my gosh, you smell so good. What are you wearing? The performance on this is very good, and it definitely has a unique and captivating quality. Next, let's talk about a fragrance that is simultaneously magical and ethereal, yet still masculine in my opinion. This is El Sireno, and El Sireno means the merman. This cap is absolutely beautiful. I love the veining, the blue and brown. I think it depicts the fragrance really well too, because to me, this is a marine fragrance with a distinct kind of ethereal floral quality, but it also has an assertive side to it as well. So the notes here are, primarily I get a very lovely clean seaweed from this. So this does lean more marine to me. This is probably the most marine fragrance out of the whole line because of the seaweed note. It also has a banana leaf note that contributes to that green factor, and it has some beautiful florals in the mix: tuberose, ylang ylang, and magnolia. I do get a bit of a watery quality from the magnolia. However, the dominant floral to me here is the ylang ylang. To me, ylang ylang reads very kind of like ethereal, summery, and that's what I'm getting from this. The oak moss in this fragrance, to me, in combination with the seaweed or the kelp, actually reads mineralic, which I love. A kind of stony mineralic, salty kind of marine fragrance. So I love El Sireno. And the reason I say it leans masculine, I mean, it's more unisex, but I do think it leans slightly masculine, is because it also has some aromatics in here that I think just give it a little bit of a masculine skew, specifically lavender, and there is a mastic note in here. So a little bit of a like balsam resin type of factor to it, which to me reads masculine. Now, that being said, I love to wear El Sireno, especially in the summer. There is something so magical, I know I've said that a few times already, about this fragrance. It literally makes me feel like I am transported to an underwater dreamscape, and I am floating through the otherworldly fauna of this magical underwater realm. I know I'm being a little dramatic with the storytelling here, but that is literally how ethereal and magical and underwater this makes me feel. The florals in here are such a gorgeous accent to the oak moss, the marine kelp, and the other aromatic notes. I don't think other people would notice the florals in here off the bat, but I think they accent those other aspects so gorgeously. It actually took me a while to come around to personally wearing El Sireno, because I did feel like the mastic and the lavender was a bit prominent, and it wasn't something I necessarily felt like wearing, but it's just so magical and ethereal that I just love it so much. And finally I was like, you know what, I need to just wear El Sireno, and got a bottle. Now, Agua de Santos is another, I think, masculine leaning fragrance in the line that also toes the line of unisex that I had to come around to wearing because I felt like it did lean slightly masculine. And this is another great one for summer. So Agua de Santos, by the way, has this like gorgeous blue like lapis lazuli cap. I absolutely adore that. The perfumer behind this fragrance is Rodrigo Flores Ru, again, also a Mexican perfumer, infused the kind of Mexican heritage into this fragrance. It was based on kind of like the old school men's colognes that the older generation used to wear in Mexico. It has a Mexican lime and kumquat opening. So it has a very zesty, bright, sparkling citrus opening with those two citrus fruits. It also has aldehydes in the opening, which I honestly didn't realize until just now when I looked at the notes, but I can definitely see the aldehydes contributing to that sparkling, effervescent citrus quality paired with the citruses. One of the things that I absolutely love about Agua de Santos is the gorgeous neroli note in here. I am a sucker for an orange blossom or a neroli note, and it is beautifully done in here. I think it is slightly sour and still very creamy though. So absolutely love how the neroli is paired with the citrus fruits here. Now, I do say this is masculine leaning because of some of the other elements. So there's obviously vetiver and cedarwood at the base, those kind of woody qualities, in addition to some aromatics, thyme and lavender. And I think that thyme and lavender is definitely pulling its weight to give you that kind of like classic men's cologne type of feel. The Angelica also lends to that kind of herbal aspect to it too. But I just love this fragrance so much. These are some of my favorite notes in the citruses as well as the neroli. So I love to wear this personally. Agua de Santos makes me feel wealthy, like I am sunning on the deck of my yacht off the coast of Cabo or in the Mediterranean, and then decide to go for a refreshing plunge in the water. That's how Agua de Santos makes me feel, sunny and refreshing. Next, let's talk about Oro Verde, which I have a little sample of that you can't see very well here, but I'll pop up a picture on the screen. This one is probably the most adventurous of all of the House of Beau fragrances. It was created by the perfumer Adriana Medina, and in short, this is a cannabis fragrance. However, like I said about House of Beau fragrances, even if you don't love a note, I still suggest trying it out because the cannabis in here is so beautifully blended with all of the other notes. So Oro Verde opens with a bit of a freshness from a bergamot note, some watery notes, and the watermelon. The watermelon in here is so special. It is not a ripe, juicy, sweet, candied watermelon by any means. This is definitely a green watermelon and more of a watery watermelon rind than the actual fruit. And it combines with the other green elements in the fragrance, the cannabis as well as the basil, to contribute to that greenness, but also add like a watery element to those two notes. I will say the most prominent effect that I get from this fragrance is, to me, this feels very vegetal. It feels very green, but it goes a little bit too vegetal for my personal liking to wear on my skin. I think the combination of the cannabis, the basil, and some people say there's like a mate note in here. I could definitely see that because there is a bit of like a sharp, tannic, almost like bitter quality combined with the cannabis and the basil that you get to that vegetal sensation. The vetiver and the palo santo are also contributing to that dry feeling. So even though I said it has sort of a watery opening. You also get a bit of a dryness in the back of your throat. So think of like a dry wine. This does not smell like wine at all, but that dryness sensation that you get from a liquid, that is kind of what I feel from Oro Verde. The watery opening, yet the dryness in the back of your throat. There is a Palo Santo note in here too, which I think adds just a hint of smokiness to the overall composition. This does not smell like you lit up a blunt. It is a very elevated, sophisticated take on a cannabis fragrance. I have actually had people smell this and they could not pick out the cannabis notes specifically. They said it was a little bit bitter, it was a little bit dry, it was a little bit green and vegetal, but they did not pick out cannabis specifically until I told them what note it was that they were getting. So still definitely give this one a try. Although I don't personally tend to wear this one, I still think it is a beautiful piece of olfactory art. And when I had a little bottle that I gave away, which was dumb because now I want to get another bottle of it, I would find myself coming to my shelf, my perfume cabinet, and taking a sniff whenever I could, just because it's such an interesting and beautiful composition, although not something that I personally would feel like wearing. Now, I have known people to layer this with other fragrances, and I haven't actually tried that, so I think I will give that a try and see if I can find my perfect combo. Next, let's talk about Espiritu. This is such an interesting kind of incensey skin scent, which typically are not my preferred scent profiles, but again, the way this is done, it's so beautiful. I definitely have to be in the mood to wear this because not my typical scent profile or scent preferences, but there's a sage note in here, which is absolutely gorgeous. I think the sage, it's kind of like the spiritual cleansing sage that you burn. And I don't necessarily think this goes into smoky territory, but it kind of toes the line. It still feels very kind of spiritual and grounding because it is combined with a leather and an oak wood note. However, what I think makes this fragrance incredibly interesting is there is a carrot seed note in here, which I feel gives it a slight bit of a sweetness and an earthy quality as well. There are also some florals, namely iris, which contributes to that kind of like papery, lightly woody skin scent type of vibe. Think like Glossier You, but grown up and amplified and made super elegant and sophisticated. There are some other soft notes in here which kind of round out the composition. It makes it a little bit softer. It's just the slightest bit creamy because there's an osmanthus floral in here, I think contributing to that creaminess. And I think the vintage leather note in here also gives you a sensation of like a soft, supple quality. This one is completely unisex, and if you enjoy skin scents with character, this is one to try out. And last but not least is Bombón. This is created by Honorine Blanc, and it is a very sultry floral. However, I think this is very unisex, even though it is, I think, predominantly a floral fragrance, because it has a very significant kind of like spicy quality to it, as well as a woodiness. So the predominant factor that I get from Bombón is the lily of the valley. The lily of the valley comes off a little bit animalic, a little bit green. So this is definitely a robust lily of the valley. You have to enjoy lily of the valley white florals in order to enjoy this fragrance. I say that because I'm not the biggest fan of lily of the valley, and that's mostly what I'm getting from this fragrance. On top of the lily of the valley, I also think that the birch wood and the saffron are very prominent in this fragrance, giving it quite a bit of a leathery type of feel with the combination of the saffron and the birch. The other aspect that I get from Bombón is also the pink pepper. So there's definitely like a sultry, spicy quality to this as well. Now, what I don't really get any of is the lychee, caramel, and marshmallow. And I wish I did. I think that would help to round out the fragrance. I'm just not getting them really. There might be a slight bit of a powdery quality to this, maybe coming from the marshmallow. I think it's kind of a stretch though. Really, what I'm getting mainly is a very spiced, robust, leathery lily of the valley floral. Now, I will say that although I don't get a lot of the sweet freshness from this that others do, I did gift this size bottle of Bombón to a friend of mine, and I smelled it on her skin. It smelled completely different on her than it does on me, or even than I get on the blotter. On her skin, it was a lovely, fresh, elegant lily of the valley. I wasn't getting any of the heavy kind of leathery or woody qualities that I do from the blotter and on my skin. So I definitely understand why others enjoy this fragrance, but to me, this is probably my least favorite in the line. So those are all of the current fragrances in the House of Beau collection. I've taken you through all of their current lineup. However, they have just teased a brand new fragrance that is releasing, we don't know when, but sometime soon. We don't know anything about it. I'll just pop up a screenshot that I took of their teaser. The only thing we know about it is what the cap looks like. And from my screenshot, all I can tell is maybe it's like a pyrite or hematite cap. So stay tuned. I will definitely be reviewing that once it comes out. Now, I will mention that House of Beau initially launched with a collection of, I think, 3 or 4 fragrances that were in eau de parfum concentration. And all of the bottles had like a limestone cap as well as like a canvas label instead of the gold plate on the bottles here. So you might see some original bottles that look like that. And I don't think they carry those original fragrances anymore because they were the eau de parfum concentrations of the parfums that they carry now. So I think it was originally El Sireno, La Mar, and maybe Espiritu that they launched with. And I think they discontinued those fragrances, the eau de parfum concentrations, rather than the parfum concentrations, because the performance wasn't there. I remember trying El Sireno as well as La Mar in the eau de parfum concentrations, and they were barely there. They had not very much longevity at all. Now, I feel like the parfums definitely perform much better. Now, something else that House of Beau launched relatively early, and maybe it was to help with the complaints about the performance of the EDPs, was this fragrance primer. So this is a nourishing parfum primer. This is an unscented spray that you apply to your skin before putting on perfume. The effect, I guess, is supposed to moisturize your skin in order to increase longevity and projection. The claims are that it also helps to minimize your personal skin chemistry's effect on the fragrance formulations. I don't really see any effect from this fragrance primer. I mean, I guess if you are very against moisturizing your skin, maybe this would help with that. However, I really didn't see any effect on the changes that my skin, does to the formulations. I didn't see any effect on the longevity, the projection, nothing like that. I also tested this on my husband and he didn't see any difference either. So I would say you can definitely skip this one. I don't think this is necessary at all. I think all you need to do is moisturize your skin with a regular body lotion or body oil, and you'll get that effect of increased performance from your fragrance. So thank you for sticking with me through this House of Beau overview. This is truly one of the most spectacular, artistic, cultural, just elegant and sophisticated luxury fragrance brands that I have ever experienced. And I will not blind buy fragrance ever from anyone, except when House of Beau releases a new fragrance, just because I believe in the artistry so incredibly much. Let me know if you have any favorites from the House of Beau collection or which one of these you want to try.